Well, hey friends, it's Natalie. So glad you stopped by to hang out with me today as we have a bit of a chat. It's been a couple of weeks since I uploaded a video. If you follow me during the month of May, you know that we did lots of decluttering together. I uploaded every single week, and I think I just simplified myself into a 2-week break. It was much needed and appreciated. Lots of garden time, time at the beach, fun in the sun. It was wonderful, but I am back at it to kick off Simple Summer, the series on my channel throughout the next several weeks that we're going to be going through together to simplify our homes and our lives. I'm going to be sharing with you some tips and tricks as well as declutter with me videos, and I thought a really good way to start it off is to do a Q&A here together. So you sent me in some questions over on my Instagram about minimalism, simple living, asking for some advice. I know I'm not perfect at this, but I do have some experience. Some concepts of minimalism have completely changed my life over the past 5 years, and I love being able to share about this topic. So let's start with this question, and it has a little red heart in it. I indicated over on Instagram that if you included a red heart in your question, I would keep your username and profile picture off of this video just to keep you anonymous, because some people really appreciate that. So this first one is actually anonymous. Decluttering feels nice, but stuff always creeps back in. Is your house cluttered again yet? I don't know the spirit behind this question. It could maybe be taken a little bit snarky. I'm going to choose to not take it that way, and maybe it's just a completely legitimate question, like, has the clutter crept back in? Any space in any home absolutely will have clutter creep. The rate at which clutter creeps back in is affected by so many different things. And in a home with several family members and a dog and a garden and property to take care of, stuff absolutely creeps back in, especially with kids. And oh my gosh, how much my kids are eating right now. I would say probably the most cluttered spot that I worked on during Minimal May is our pantry, which is something that requires very regular maintenance in order to keep simple. It's an area with a lot of consumables. Consumables is a category of stuff, and it can be in other places in your house, not just like a pantry situation where you are consuming the inventory in there and you're regularly making your way through what is in there, and it doesn't necessarily get fully replaced all the time. It doesn't get used and put back. It gets used up. And so right now, if we walked in there, you would probably see random things on the floor. Halfway eaten stuff that actually needs to be kind of processed through, empty packaging and stuff like that. So that is a space that absolutely gets cluttered up again. The schoolroom has not really gotten cluttered up again. That's like a daily maintenance, put your pencils and pens and school books away. And when we are on top of it, just like any other space, it definitely feels like it's reset and back to being clean again. But that's the whole thing. And I've shared this so many times about your decluttering or minimalism journey, is that it is not once and done. For the rest of my life, I will have to maintain my spaces and the clutter in it. And at different times in my life, that will either require more work or less work. So yes, is my house cluttered again? My house is always going to have cluttered corners, and I'm okay with that. But the places that I went through last month and did some decluttering, definitely you can feel the effect, even now several weeks later. And I'm so glad that I put the effort in. I'm always glad that I put the effort in. It's always worth it to make progress. Breemore6113 says, how do you stop the urge to bring more into your home even after decluttering? I think one of the elements of clutter creep, we actually have to take a really good look at our own habits. Sometimes it's the consumable sort of situation where we're just not doing a great job of clearing things out daily that are being consumed, and there's packaging and stuff like that. And that's just a quick little habit change. There are other habits that need to be changed. If you look at a space and one day it's decluttered, the next you have a bunch of Target bags or Amazon boxes in it with new stuff that you've purchased. The first time I went through Messy to Minimal back in 2020, one of the biggest changes that I made was my purchasing and my spending and my impulse spending habits. I had to take a good, honest, hard look at the things that I was bringing into my home, the quality of the things that I was bringing into my home, as well as the quantity. And if I was just bringing in a bunch of junk, maybe it was less about trying to furnish and provide for my home and more about filling some sort of need in my own heart, some sort of deficiency or gap or mental health, emotional, spiritual health issue that I was going through, that was the kind of driving force leading me to purchase things that I simply did not need. So there is something to be said for the last question I answered, the fact that you will be decluttering for the rest of your life. But if you find yourself continually decluttering out the same type of item, for a while I realized that I was decluttering out a lot of like linens, towels, napkins, tablecloths, and stuff like that, because I loved buying that sort of thing because it's all so pretty and it's marketed so well. But ultimately, the few tablecloths that I now have and keep reusing year after year is really all that I need. And it's served our family well. And realizing that the stuff I was purchasing was to fulfill a shopping desire rather than providing for the furnishing and the smooth running of my home. So that category of item might indicate an overspending or an over purchasing. And if I sort of cut that out and was more honest and more disciplined about it, I could see some changes, and I did see changes when I was honest with myself about those things. Wilson Weekend said, how do you find motivation to get stuff done during the summer? I just want to play with this beautiful sunshine emoji. You know, I have grown to love summer so much, and I find myself feeling the same way. I just want to enjoy the sunshine, take my kids on little trips, go to the beach, work in my garden, sit in my garden. And in years past, I have let my house fall to rack and ruin. And by the time fall time rolls around, and by the time the new school year rolls around and the autumn season, and then quickly, ramping up into holiday season, I'm like, oh my goodness, if I would have just spent a little time each day or a few times a week just resetting things and maintaining the clutter and getting on top of the housework, I would have set myself up so much more for a busy part of the year. Doing what you need to do to kind of help your house and your family and your meal schedule survive, and having grace with a little bit of extra mess, and having grace with yourself and your desire to go out and play, I think is a really good balance to try to find in your own life. It's gonna look different for everyone. It's gonna look different for you even from year to year. But I kind of have a policy for myself that I will get like the big two done before I will head outside to work on a project or take a trip to the beach or something with my kids. The big two is dishes and laundry. If I can stay on top of dishes and laundry every single day, then the rest sort of falls into place for our household. And I also encourage my kids to do the same when it comes to their 1 or 2 chores that they have every single day that they need to do. In fact, I actually got a lot of questions that I'm seeing here as I'm kind of scrolling through about kids' chores. And I got a lot of these questions, I think it was in my pantry declutter video back in May that I made, asking to see sort of a chore schedule. I think this is a video all in and of itself. And I think it's one that I'm going to put work into and release for Simple Summer. I want to put some real thought and intentionality into this because I want it to be as helpful as possible. But I can now say that for myself and for my kids, which if you're new here, I have 2 almost 11-year-old boys. Yes, they're twins. And I have an 8-year-old little girl. So all 3 of them are quite capable when it comes to household stuff. And when they help, it is actually helpful at this stage of life. And then I have my chores that I do each day, and then like weekly chores that I do. And if I fall behind daily or I miss my chore day weekly, things very quickly dive into chaos and squalor. And no one wants that for their summer. So if you can pick some non-negotiables that you are hitting, or you and your kids, your capable children, are hitting every single day or every single week, then I think that you'll find that time of play and relaxation and recreation is much sweeter and more enjoyable, because you don't have that pile of dishes in the sink or that mountain of laundry piling up constantly, and you don't have that sort of nagging silent to-do list always running if you can just tick a couple of those really important things off. I would like to know, actually, if you could pick a couple of non-negotiables, what does that look like in your household and in your life? For me, it's absolutely dishes and laundry. And you know what? Some days my bed does not get made. Some days the kitchen counter doesn't get wiped off. But if the dishes are taken care of every day and the laundry is at least washed every day, it makes such a difference. I have to know, have you added to your clothing collection since the last video? Yeah, that was the last video that I did. That feels like forever ago. I normally don't take breaks like this, but it was so nice. And the last video I did, and the last in my Minimal May series, was a summer mega closet declutter. It was a lot of fun. Yes, I have added a couple of things. I saw this comment when I was scrolling earlier. So I gathered the two things that I've purchased. First of all, I have this dress from American Eagle that I actually had purchased weeks before I filmed that video, so this would have been included in the capsule wardrobe. I just didn't think about it when I was filming it because it was on back order for a little bit, and then it finally arrived like 2 days after that video went up. And I have been absolutely loving it. This mini gingham print, green and white, smocked bodice, and it has this little dip in the front, kind of like a old-fashioned sort of corset look, but it's not restrictive. It works for me. I find this sort of material and this cut very supportive. This one has pockets, and just something about the way this material flows, it gives me 90s vibes. I feel like my mom had a couple of dresses with this same sort of cottony rayon material. And even the check, like this micro gingham print, just feels very nostalgic to me. I love the way it flows. I love the way it fits on my body. If it came in a petite length, I would love it even better. American Eagle does a lot of petite length pants, but they didn't have this in petite in their dresses. That would put it over the top for me. The second item that I purchased was a new pair of brown sandals, which these actually are convertible. These are the Passion brand, which I've talked about a few times on my channel. I bought the little heel kit in this color. This is the walnut color from Passion. I have a couple of other pairs of these shoes and I love them so much. So you just put like this little support thing on the bottom and you pop it into the shoe and you find the little mechanism and twist it on, and that quickly you have a heel. That little support piece here makes the arch rigid so that you have support to be walking on your tiptoes, which is essentially what you're doing when you have a heel on, but then you can just like twist it off and you have a flat. I took the little flat cap off, although I think their black flat cap would look better, but these are replacing my brown Merona brand braided thong style sandals in kind of this color. I needed to upgrade to something more sturdy and new and a little bit more modern. As sentimental as those shoes are for me, because I got them for my honeymoon 13 years ago. They are falling apart and it is time to get something else. I also have like this little cork heel, which is a great option. So there's like a mix and match element to this, and you don't have to have tons of different pairs of shoes in order to have variety in your wardrobe. So there's that too, for a little bit more casual, elevated sandal. So those are the two things that I have added to the capsule, the summer capsule wardrobe. There you go. Another question about clothing here. Do you use a minimal wardrobe for your kids too? Right now in this moment, no. But that is going to change because I am so over the number of clothing items my kids have. Haley gets hand-me-downs. My boys don't. They don't have any friends that are like bigger than them to hand clothing down. Boys don't as often, I think, hand clothing down anyway. They're really rough on their clothes, or their clothes get kind of janky and stinky at this age. Haley, however, has a couple of friends who are a few years older than her. They're actually like the boys' friends. They're all friends together. But they're in the boys' age group, and they're big enough that when they're done with clothing, they can pass it on to Haley. And it's so sweet. And she's just had such sweet generosity from her friends or her friends' moms deciding to pass some clothing on to her. But it has created quite the stuffed closet, and I can tell it's stressing her out to pick an outfit out. I know how that goes, where if you have too many options, it makes it harder to make a choice. And also just the maintenance. I think at this point, it's just too much for her to handle. I think it's beyond too much for her to handle. That might be the next video going up on my channel. I have a messy to minimal kids clothing declutter that I'm going to be probably filming within the next couple of days, and I think it is going up next week on my channel. So stay tuned for that. It's also going to include the boys' clothing because yes, there's 2 of them, but I don't think that they need a double stock of clothing, which even at this point, I think that they are beyond double what an individual almost 11-year-old boy needs. And especially my boys, like, they don't really care about their clothing. They are not to the stage yet where they care what they're wearing. So why would I overcomplicate things or keep sort of a beefier collection for them if I could get away with them not caring if they have just a few pieces to rotate through? So we'll talk more about that in the kids closet declutter video that's coming out soon. I also have a sort of living area declutter messy to minimal episode that I want to do as well. And just remember, if you don't have kids, there will still be things in that kids clothing declutter video, elements of simple living or decluttering tips and advice that you could still apply to other areas of your life. Same thing goes if you don't have a living room. I like to share advice in general and encouragement and the ability to body double. I get that comment a lot, and it just makes me so happy that you use my decluttering videos or other videos on my channel to just kind of have going in the background while you work on stuff around your own house. I do that sometimes too. I watch gardening videos or listen to gardening videos while I take care of my house, which is a great way, actually, going back to that comment about all I want to do is play in the summer. All I want to do is garden in the summer. And so I can keep that gardening inspiration going in my head as I'm getting to the actual like work tasks and household stuff in my home. And it just helps inspire me to go faster so that I can actually get out to my own garden. Jacqueline Rochelle says, what are your favorite boredom busters for kids that minimize stuff, clutter, etc.? When in doubt, add water. I actually had a friend give me that advice many years ago when my kids were really little. Kids are bored, give them something water oriented to play with. Kids are sad, grumpy, angry, hangry. You're trying to get through that last hour before dinner, but it's not time to have a snack because you'll ruin their appetite. Throw them in the bath. Supervised, of course. But I think my number one favorite way to kind of get them out of the funk or the boredom or whatever is just to be like, hey, let's fill a couple of buckets of water outside and have splash war, or let's make mud pies, or whatever it is. So that has been fun for them all ages, like from when they were babies up until now, like preteen age. And I expect that even beyond, they will enjoy it. In fact, we're actually thinking about getting an above ground, like it stays in the yard for the whole summer season pool. I think we're ready for that sort of thing. Lexi 1988 says, hi, how do you protect your margins so that you can enjoy motherhood and wifehood? And then it gets cut off, but I think I can understand the rest of the question and the context. Forgive me if I make too many assumptions. How do you protect your margins? This is such a good question. And this is something that I have had to learn and cultivate for years. And it's something that I'm still learning through. I am the sort of person, I probably would not have admitted this about myself several years ago, But I am the sort of person who wants to say yes to everything. I want all the adventures. I want to go on all the trips and see all the things and do all the extracurricular activities. And I actually do, in this season of life, say yes to a lot more than I was able to before. But if I say yes to too much, everyone in the household feels the effects. The way that I protect my margins is by getting really good at saying no or maybe. I very much see myself, and Weston too, I think the buck stops with both of us, but we're very in tune with things. And we've kind of agreed that it's more so my job to be the gatekeeper of our family's schedule. When I'm not doing a good job of guarding those margins and protecting our time as a family, things can quickly devolve into chaos. I think I've said that phrase now twice in this video. Peace in our family is more important than any sort of enrichment that we could have through these commitments and these activities. I am someone who can definitely overcommit. Weston and I sort of have a policy for our family that, and this kind of plays into other situations as well, but we will sort of defer to the most uncomfortable or the most exhausted party, because once one person has been brought to their limit or beyond their limit, it has an effect on everyone else. And that is a moving target. That is something that changes so much. So maybe I think the best way to protect your margins is to figure out your why you want to protect your margins, and let that be the driving factor to get really good at being comfortable in the awkwardness of telling someone no, and to also learn diplomatic ways to suggest alternatives, or to just stand your ground with your boundaries and say, you know what, I'm a bit overcommitted during this season, so I have to say no to this opportunity. But thank you so much for thinking of me, and please keep me in mind for future field trips, sports events, trips, extracurriculars, ministry opportunities, etc., etc. Amy Tater says, do you have trouble staying on task while cleaning your home? Also, love your channel. Thank you, Amy. That's really sweet. Yeah, I have trouble staying on task. I do have ADHD. I don't want to use that as an excuse all the time, though. Like, I do want to have a balance of acknowledging this diagnosis that I have and how it affects my life, while also not letting it be an excuse for being undisciplined. Honestly, one of the best little tricks that I have for myself is using a timer. Whether it's saying to the Echo device that we have on our countertop, set a 3-minute timer and trying to get whatever it is done in that time. It also works really well for my kids. Sometimes I'll use built-in timers. I've got a factor meal in the microwave for 2 minutes. I'm gonna go declutter something for 2 minutes, or try to get the dishwasher unloaded in 2 minutes. So using a timer is probably the #1 way that I keep myself on track. It works wonders, and I've been doing it for years. What's a change you've made recently that has really impacted your life? Thank you for the gentle motivation. You're so sweet. A change that I've made recently. I actually changed the way we do our laundry routine. I had been separating only whites away from the rest of the general laundry and stuff that's like super dirty. Like, you know, we cleaned up some muddy spill or something like that. But in general, everything went into the same bin from all members of our family, and I've done it this way for years, and I just wash everything together. Stuff came out totally fine and clean. It was no big deal. But then I would sit with a mountain of laundry every couple of days and sort out into each person's pile, and then we would help the kids sort out from there, like what goes in what drawer. And it just felt like I could never ever get on top of it, because you can't, right? Laundry is endless. Like decluttering or simplifying, it's always something that you're going to be doing. And so I felt like for years I have been resisting that, almost in denial, like trying to get to the end of it, constantly trying to get to the end of the laundry. And that day would come where the final sock came out clean and was put away, and I'd turn around and 10 seconds later, there were more things in that hamper. And it was actually over this 2-week break that I took that I said, if there is one thing in my life right now that if I took care of it would really help me out. It's whatever is going on with my laundry routine. What I've done in the past is look up minimalist laundry routine videos, which there's nothing wrong with those. Or I would look up Pinterest or blog articles about like how we do our laundry as a family of 5 or whatever. And this time, instead of going to other people and seeing what works for them, I really analyzed day to day what it was about our way of doing laundry that wasn't working for me. And I really think it boiled down to the fact that everything was all together and it depended upon me to do the sorting, or Weston would do the sorting sometimes, but the sorting time of the day was typically when he was off at work anyway. So it most of the time fell to me. And if I missed a day of sorting out the mishmash pile of everyone's stuff, it would go from one day's worth to, all of a sudden, no one has anything to wear, 4 or 5 days worth of laundry piled on my living room couch. Something's got to give. And I realized that I have to do at least 1 load of laundry every single day, which is what I was doing. But instead of doing it as a mishmash that I have to sort at the end of it, I decided to do that 1 load of laundry a day pre-sorted into our own categories. So my clothing is washed only with my clothing. Weston's, the boys' clothing, Haley's clothing, kitchen towels, beach towels, white towels, they all have their own day. And it is working brilliantly. And you know what? If I searched for other people's laundry routines, I probably would have gotten that information sooner. I probably would have seen that so-and-so from wherever swears by the fact that she does a load of laundry per day and it's all pre-sorted in the dirty stage and everyone has their own hamper. Like, this is not revolutionary. This is not new. I probably would have seen that someone else does that. But I needed to own the change and recognize that that was the need for my own laundry routine rather than do it as a way to adopt someone else's method. I don't know why my brain does that. I love getting information. I love getting inspiration, and sometimes things legitimately are informational and inspiring. But in some situations, I actually need to put myself through the paces of really problem solving and sometimes reverse engineering a situation before I realize what actually works for my brain. It's so easy to catch right back up. And I anticipate that when my kids actually have a simpler wardrobe and fewer pieces in it, the next step of the process, which is handing off the clean laundry to the individual, will further how well and functional it goes for them to put their laundry away, for them to hang up their nice clothing, for them to sort into their own bins or find what's dirty or request that something gets mended or whatever. I feel like just in the little time that we've implemented this, and this isn't just me feeling this way, Weston has also noticed, like he came home, it was, I think last night we were talking about it. He came home to look at his dirty bin to see, hey, do I need to throw this into the wash? And he noticed it was empty. I had washed it. It was clean, literally ready to go. The basket of clean stuff was in his closet for him to put away. And he's like, this is amazing. This is working for us. Might not work for you. It might be the thing, however, that you've done for years. And you're like, duh, Natalie, duh. But I am just one of those people that I have to learn my lessons for myself. Unfortunately, I've been that way since I was a kid. Maybe I can blame it on ADHD. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. I have no idea. So there we go. On that note, since we're talking laundry, I think that's a great segue into the next episode of Simple Summer, which is decluttering my kids' wardrobes, so I hope to see you back for that. If you enjoy declutter with me videos, messy to minimal videos, I think you're gonna love that one, whether you have kids or not. I always love to share encouragement and gentle motivation in whatever video that I've got for you, so I hope you'll come back for more. If you're not subscribed yet, please do so and turn that bell notification. Make sure it's turned to all notifications. There's a few different options that you can choose, but if you want to make sure that you don't miss when I post a new video, then you'll want it to be turned to all. I hope your summer is off to a good start, or your winter time if you're a Southern Hemisphere friend. Thank you so much for spending a little part of your day here with me on my channel, and I'll catch you later.